on 126a. We're on the first line at the top. Amar Rav Huna. Amar Rav Huna Amar Rav. Bechor Shemicha. Now we're returning to talk about improvements to the land of the estate or the property of the estate. Um, and what if the Bechor, like the brothers want to, improve the land. They want to build a building on the land, let's say, and the Bechor objects. He doesn't want it. He would like to take his portion, his double portion first, and then let the brothers do on their parts of the estate what they want to do. So Micha, then it works. In other words, if they, if he protests and they go ahead anyway, then he gets a double share in the improved land. Okay. Um,
Well, who's making this decision here? How are
the
they
other brothers,
deciding?
the other heirs, the other brothers.
But I mean,
Okay, because we saw the other day. Excuse
what
me.
right do they have to
We
do
saw
that?
the other day that if they all agree to make improvements, then the Bechor does not get double, right? Because then it's like it's a changed thing, it's a new thing, and he loses out on his double portion. So he says, you know what, I want my double portion. Let me take my double portion first, and then you guys go do on your portions whatever you want, right? And they go ahead anyway and they build the building, they improve the land. Then he gets the he is entitled to what he would not otherwise not be entitled to. In other words, he's entitled to the double portion in the improved land. Okay.
I don't remember how we learned that before, that they could go ahead that improve it. What was the Shakravataria there? I don't even remember that, what you're saying that he is entitled to an improved property if they improve it.
That was on Kuf Chaf Gimel.
We talked about it, property improves on its own,
Right.
and or if new crops grow on their own, and is it part of the Bechor or not Bechor? But to say that
Okay. Oh yeah, remember we talked about like if it's an animal, like if it was a cow that was grazing,
right,
um,
had a baby cow or something like this.
right. So if something that happened by itself, then he gets the double portion. But if it's something that they actively improve, then he doesn't. Yeah, it's on Kuf Chaf Daled Amud Aleph at the top. The Rabbi said, "Ein b'chor notel pishnayim b'shevach sheshavchu nechasim lachar misas aviyam." The b'chor doesn't get double in the improvement that happens after the death of the father.
That's the Machlokes Rebbe and the
Yeah,
Chacham.
Rebbe says he does get, and the Tanakama said they no. Rebbe said even if they do it actively, then even Rebbe says that he doesn't get. Okay, so let's come back to our
Right.
thing. So now we're saying that if the Bechor protests and they do it anyway, then he does get. Okay. Amar Rabba, Misaver Tamid Rabbi Yassi. It's this statement of Rav Huna Amar Ravasi makes sense by Novim Ubitzarim, where the estate was grapes, and then they harvested the grapes. Okay, and now harvested grapes are worth more than grapes still still on the vine, because you've done work to them. Like you would pay more for those grapes because the work's already been done. Or zaysim musachum, or if there were olives in the estate, olives on the tree, and they harvested the olives, then it makes sense that if the Bechor says, don't harvest them yet, I'll take my double portion first, they go ahead and harvest anyway, then he gets the double portion. Aval derachum lo. But if they improve it so much, if they crush the grapes to make it into wine, or they crush the olives to make it into oil, then the Bechor does not get double. Why is that? Because now it's a different thing, right? So now we get into, it's like similar to if somebody steals wood and he makes, builds it into a house or makes it into a chair or whatever, then he has acquired it by virtue of the shinoi, of changing its nature. Um, so here too, if they go so far as to change it from grapes into wine or from olives into oil, then excuse me, then they would be kona, as it were, um, and well, drachum law, but then he would not get it. Rabbi Yosef says afilu drachum, even if they crush them, right? So drachum, so the Gemara is surprised at the state of Rabbi Yosef meikara in vehashtechamra. Like, you've done the shinui. What's your objection here? First, initially it was grapes, and now it's wine, right? So how can you? There's more surprised that Rabbi Yosef would object. So Gemara says Kadama Ravukva Bar Chama. What Rabbi Yosef really means is like Ravukva said, Litain lo dmei hezek anavav. Um, that you know what he's saying, that if they try to improve it, let's say they turn the grapes into wine and the wine goes sour, right? So now they've reduced the value. They try to improve it, but they've reduced it. So is the Bechor entitled to damages, right? So that's what we're talking about. Litain lo dmei hezek anavav. They're not saying that he shares when they go and change it into wine, that he shares in the profit. They're saying that he's owed damages if things go south. That's what Rabbi Yosef is talking about. And where did Rav Ukva make this statement about that they owe damages? What case was he talking about? Was this case of Rav Yehuda? Bechoru pashut sheiniach le'avi anavim. You have two brothers. One is a bechor and one is not, and they inherit grapes on the vine, ubitzarim, and the non-bechor harvests them, or zaytin musakum, or it could be olives, and he harvested them. Bechor notel pishtaim afilu drachum. The bechor gets double, even if the other brother went so far as to crush them and turn them into wine. So Gemara says drachum, like, really? Why is that? Meikarim vehashtachabra. They were grapes and now they're wine. So it's not even like the original estate anymore. Why does the Bechor get double? On Marufa. So in that case, Marufa said, lo, um, meaning that it's for the loss, right? That if the wine went sour, then the Bechor is owed damages in the amount of the loss of value of a double portion. And so that's what Rav Huna or Ravasi, was that who it was? No, that's what Rav Yosef was saying here. I'm Ravasi.
So what would be the dot if? Well, what is the calculation? If he damages it, so now it's not worth as much as it was before. So is the double portion what it could have been before, or now it's double portion of what the reduced value is? I mean,
Um, well, you look at the entire estate, right? Whatever value it lost, the Bechor is entitled to a double portion. So if there was one other brother, he's entitled to 2/3 of the damages. And the other brother, I mean, he's the one that, I mean, he doesn't have to pay himself, he's the one who's being sued. So he gets sued for the double portion of the Bechor.
so he has to pay the amount of the loss, double what
Yes,
would be the loss. So if it was
correct.
$100 and the property lost $50, so he gets $50. So now it's worth 50.
33.
So he gets double of the loss. So he gets the 50, and he gets, I don't know, what would it be?
No. Let's make, first of all, make it easier. Make it $30. Okay. So if the property was worth 100 and now it's worth 70, okay, because he messed it up, right? So there's a $30 loss. The Bechor, and there's one other brother. The Bechor gets $20.
So the second brother has to pay the
The
Bechor
Bechor.
$20.
That's right.
And the second brother, well, he suffers that loss of the $10. He's getting sued, whatever.
Right.
He can't pay
He's,
himself what he loses.
exactly. That's right. Amravasi, Bechor shenoto chelik kapashut. Viter. If the Bechor, they're splitting up the property, and the Bechor says, I forego my double portion," then that works. Like he's foregone it. My Viter, what does it mean? He has foregone it. Rav Papa Mishmei Rav Amar Viter Ba'os Asada. Rav Papa said only in the property that's being discussed. So let's say there are like multiple plots of land, and they get to the first one, and the Bechor says, "That's okay. I don't need a double portion in this land. We'll split it equally, right?" Then they get to the second one. So Rav Papa says, no, he was only talking about the first one, but he still gets a double portion in the rest of the estate. Rav Papi Mishmei Rav Amar, but Rav Papi says, "Viter b'chol nechasim kulan." No, he once he started once he said, I forego my double portion on this plot, he means all of the plots, right? On the whole estate. Now I know what you're gonna ask, Ken. What if he says specifically just on this plot? That doesn't seem to be that's what the Gemara is talking about. Gemara is trying to interpret what does he mean when he says without qualification, I forego my double portion. Does it only apply to the plot of land or to the piece of the estate that they were currently dealing with, or does it apply to the whole estate? Rav Papa made Rav Amar, Viter Mosasada. So let's analyze. Rav Papa says only on that piece of the estate that they were working on. Kasafar ein la b'chor kodem chaluka. He holds that the b'chor doesn't have any any extra rights to the estate before it gets divided. Um, uh, so um, so it's like it's only like this first part is being divided. Now he gets his portion, his double portion. Um, and now he gets his double portion, so that's fine. He can give up his double portion on what he has been allotted, but the rest of the estate, he hasn't even come into his portion yet, right? He hasn't gotten any rights to that he could give up. Okay, but Rav Papi Mishmei Rav Amar Viter B'chol Chasim Kulam. But why does Rav Papi say that he is giving up on his double portion of the whole estate? That he has rights in it already, right? As soon as the father died, he has a right in the a double portion in the property. So when he says so when he gives up that right, he has, he's able to give up his right to the whole thing, and that's why we interpret what he's saying. So it sounds like both of them understand from his language that he's giving up on all his rights, but it's a question of does he have the right yet? Right. So according to Rav Papa, he doesn't have the right to the properties that they haven't gotten around to dividing yet. And according to Rav Papi, he does have that right, and so when he gives up his right, it's valid.
So even according to Rav Papi, he couldn't even specify, I'm giving up my right
No,
to
that's what I
plot
was
A.
trying. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say before. I think it's reasonable to assume that if he specifies, then yeah, then we go by his specification. The question is, how do we interpret his language if it's ambiguous?
Right.
Right? Okay. But Rav Papa love Beferish. This machlokas is not, they didn't state it directly. Elami Klal. We're deriving from something else they said that this is what they would rule here. And what is that case that we're deriving from? There was a Bechor with one brother, and he went and he sold he sold the plot before it was divided. So he sold both his double share and his brother's single share. But before they had agreed on how to divide the property. Also, yes, maybe they pashut. So this brother's sons, and then the brother died. Let's say so. The younger brother. So the orphans of the younger brother, they came. L'mechol tamre, mehanu lukuchos machunhu. Mehanu lukuchos. They figured, well, this field is growing dates. Um, and it was our father's inheritance. So, we have rights to it also. Let's go and eat some dates, right? But the buyer said, like, what are you doing here? I bought this field. They threw him out. Amrli Kurovim, so the relatives of the orphans said, Lo misaima, lo misayed is avintu l'nechsayu. It's not bad enough that you bought the property illegally, right? Because it hadn't been divided yet, the the Bechor had no right to sell it to you. Elamim micha nami machisulu. You're also gonna like drive them off the land. It's like haratzachta become Yerashta. So also in other words, the relatives claim the sale isn't valid in the first place. So what do it still belongs to the estate, and the Yisomim can eat from it. Also coming to Rava, they go to Rava. Amar Lubi said, "Loss of lookbum." The actions taken were not valid. Now we don't know exactly what he means here. Marsavar loss of klum
No, it's
b'palga.
lo klum. It could say that. I mean, it costs. I mean, it did nothing. That. I mean, I could say that when they say lo klum, doesn't mean anything. That the relatives had no right to be there. That other people hit them or threw them up doesn't mean anything.
Well, the Gemara seems to understand that the action of the sale is what he's saying is not valid, but we're not sure what that means exactly. Marsavar lost a klum b'palga. Rav Papi holds that he means that the sale of the half or the portion of the younger brother was not effective. In other words, the Bechor went and sold it. He's entitled to sell his own portion, but he wasn't entitled to sell the younger brother's portion without consent.
Right.
Lamar Savar B'chulu, but Rav Papa says that no, the whole sale is invalid. So clearly, Rav Papa holds that the whole sale is invalid because the Bechor doesn't even have rights to it to sell it at all, even his own portion, because it hasn't been divided yet. So from that, we get the idea that that the Bechor doesn't have rights to it yet. And Rav Papi says, yeah, he had rights to his own portion, and he could sell that. Or he could sell 2/3 of the land, but he couldn't sell the other brothers. So Rava wasn't being specific enough, and that's why they are arguing over what he meant. Shalchumitam, they sent from Eretz Yisrael. Firstborn sells his portion before the estate is divided. It's meaningless. Alma. So we see from that. Ein lo chaluka. So that seems to say that the bechor has no rights. But the halacha is that he does have the rights before it's divided. Marzutra midrishba. Marzitra from Derishba, his place. And apparently he was a firstborn. Palag Bitsana de Pilpule Bahade Achin Bishave. He took a basket of peppers from the estate and he divided it equally. And then he wanted to, so it sounds like, it seems like if he's dividing it equally, then he's foregoing his double portion. And then they came to divide the rest of the estate, and he still wants a double portion. But he didn't make any statement. It was just his action of dividing the basket of peppers that implied that he's giving up on his portion. Also, coming to Ravashi, so they asked Ravashi, "What do we do?" Since by your action you showed that you're giving up on your double portion, we're going to apply that to all of the estate. Okay, which is even more extreme than like he didn't even say anything, and we're still interpreting his action as actively giving up on the whole estate.
So that would support the opinion that he doesn't have the right to sell anything, that it's all basically his. I mean, he's given, that would be Rav Papi, right? Like Rav Papi, that
Yeah,
he
yeah,
could not, well, once he's given up on part of it, he's given up on all of it. He doesn't have the right to sell any of it because it's all part of his before it's even divided. He can't
yeah,
specify, right?
right. Um, okay. Okay. Next Mishnah. We touched on this the other day, yesterday, I think. A person who tries to divide his estate um, before death differently than the usual procedure. So, and you ask like, how can you do that? So, we said like maybe there's a case of a shlimeira, right? Someone who is on his deathbed can make a bequest that is valid, but I'm not clear on if the Mishnah is applies to like after death, if the guy gives instructions that the or even if he's not a shliv meira, like can you give instructions that are contrary to the usual way of doing things? But either way, this is what the Mishnah is dealing with if you try to get around the usual procedure. Homer, a person says, Ish ploni b'ni b'chor lo yitel b'shnayim. This person, my firstborn, is not getting double, right? He's getting regular single portion of the estate. So throughout, we're going to assume that he has the right to do this. So then, or Ish ploni b'ni lo yirashi machav, or my son, he doesn't say he's the firstborn, but my son won't inherit. Lower klum, this doesn't count. Like he can't do that. Shehisna masha because of the Torah, because the Torah says that the Bukhar gets double, and he doesn't get and so he can't do that. Now,
Can't
but
do either.
what?
He can't do either thing, right?
Can't do either thing, right? So you can't get around the Torah's rules for Yerusha this way. Hamachalik nechasul lo anav piv, but somebody who is distributing his assets orally, right? So in other words, if you say after my death, you're not getting your double portion, that doesn't work. But if you say I'm now giving you my property, right? Then so then you don't have to be equal. You can give more to one brother, less to another brother, make the Bechor equal, right? Devar of Kayamin, that works because he's
But,
alive and he's these are gifts. They're not inheritances.
well,
And
the
you can get
Rashbam here deals with the point we raised. Hamakalach nechas v'lapiv. The tzavta shchiv mera. Eino tzricha kinyan v'lo shtar. It seems that he is talking about shchiv mera.
yes. Right, that's what I'm assuming, and like I'm not clear on if okay, so yes, according to Rashban, it is a Shli Me'ara, and he's dealing with the Yerusha. But if somebody who is you don't even have to be a Shli Me'ara, but if you do it as a gift, then you can give gifts to whoever you want.
He does say some ela b'davar pi ba'alma kugon shem mitzaveh machmat mita kedamar lekaman beperak misha made it. That is he saying there that we're talking, but in general sense, we're going to discuss that later.
Well, it seems like he's saying that it depends how you phrase it. If you phrase it as a Yerusha, then it doesn't work. You can't change the Yerusha rules. If you're doing it as a gift, then you can do it. Mishnah is not entirely clear on how to determine, is he talking about a Yerusha or a gift? But that's the principle.
But then
Mishum,
the Mishnah said imamar mishum Yerusha lo amar
yeah,
klum.
if he uses the word inheritance, then that doesn't count. Okay, so that's it seems like the Mishnah is saying if you can give gifts, but if you use the word inheritance, then it has to follow the rules.
But it seems, according to the Rashbam, that this is applying to a shchiv mera. So
You
that
mean the
if
second part also? Well,
Mm,
I think that would be the case because otherwise, where's the Kenyan, right? There's special rules for a Shlichim Rabbi because he's on his deathbed. We follow his directions, even though there hasn't been a Kenyan of the property.
right. He says, Eno tzricha kinyan. That's what the Rashbam says.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Okay. Right. Now, Kasav bein b'chila bein b'emtza bein b'sof mishum matana. But if somewhere in what let's say he's doing it in the document, and he uses the word gift anywhere, dvar of kayamim, then we assume the whole thing is a gift. Now, in other words, you could be like, I'm giving away, my house, and I'm giving away my car, and I'm giving away my cottage as a gift, right? Then the gift applies to the whole document. Lemos needs to look Rabbi Yehuda. So Gemara says maybe this is not according to Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda ha'amar b'davar shel no kaya. He holds that if in a monetary situation, even that you have the right to do something that is not the way the Torah wants it done. Titania, where we see that, there's a brisa, Homer li shaharet mekudeshes almanah she'en lach alai she'er ksusvana. Guy says, I'm marrying you, but on condition that I don't have to give you the things that the Torah obligates me to give, which is clothes, food, clothes, and sex. Harezu mikudeshes utno batel. That works. The kedushin works, and also the tanai is no good. He's still obligated in those things. Divrei Rameir, that's what Rameir says. When it comes to the food and the clothes, actually, I accept the conditions. Should they're married, and his conditions are valid. He doesn't have to feed her, doesn't have to clothe her. So it seems like Rabbi Yehuda is saying that you can make a tanai against the Torah. The Torah wants you to give her food and clothes, but you can make a condition that you're not doing it. It works.
Well,
Gemara
it
says
could have
no.
said Harizu Mekadesh Utano Batel. That this Tanai is the stipulation is not valid, right?
That's what Rameir says. Yeah,
Oh, that's what right. Rabbi Meir said. Rabbi Yehuda says it is. Okay, right.
yeah. So Gemara says no. I feel with him, Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda, the case of kedushin is different. Hasam yadava kamachla. There, in the case of the marriage, the woman understands what she's getting into, and she's entitled to food and clothing, but she accepts the marriage and says, you know what, I forego that benefit, right? Achalo kamachla. But in our case, nobody's giving up. The Behor might be very upset by not getting his double portion. He's not accepting that. So yes, you can make a condition against what the Torah says if the other party agrees. Okay, according to Rabbi Yehuda, but not if the other party doesn't agree. Amar Rav Yosef. Amar Ishponi.
Then we learn in the case of the Kedushin that the woman can forego receiving mizonot from the Baal but then she can keep all her own earnings, right?
Yes, that's correct. That's correct. Amar Rav Yosef. Amar Ish Ploni B'ni B'charihu. Person says, Jack is my firstborn son, right? Not so Pishnayim, then that's that is good enough evidence that he is the firstborn and gets a double portion. But if he says Ish Ploni B'charhu, but he says Jack is the firstborn, right? And not so Pishnayim. He doesn't get it. He has to say he's my firstborn. Why? Dilma Buchra Dima Kamar. Because Jack could be firstborn. He could be firstborn to his mother. But the father may have earlier children. So if he says Jack is my firstborn, then that works. If he says Jack is a firstborn, then that's not dispositive. How do also come to Rabbi Baruchana? Someone came to Rabbi Amarle Muchzakni Vazeh Shu B'char. He said, I know that this guy is a firstborn of somebody else, of his father. Amarle, so Rabbi says, Minaya, that's how do you know? Because his father used to call him a Buchra Sichla, which we're understanding as the foolish firstborn, right? He's like some kind of expression, right? So Rava says, well, if that's the case, Dilma Buchor Dimahu, like he may, that's like saying he's a firstborn. If the father calls him a foolish firstborn, doesn't mean you're my firstborn. Could be the firstborn of your mother. The Buchra, the Ima, Nami Buchra Sichra Karula, because you could do that with a mother's firstborn. Okay, so that's not good enough evidence. How they also come to Rabbi Chanina? Somebody came to Rabbi Chanina. Amalei was Eshu Bechor. I know about this guy that he's the firstborn of his father. Amalei Minayadas Yisah. Amalei the Chihavu Asu Legabe Avua. Because when people would come, apparently the father was an eye doctor. People would come to the father and they were looking for some kind of ointment for their eye. Amalu, he would say, Zilu Lagabe Shikchas bring. Go to my son Shikchas, that was his name. Debuchrahu, he's the firstborn. So apparently, Umase Ruke. Apparently, there was some kind of salve that was made with spit as one of the ingredients, and it has to be the spit of a firstborn son. So he would say, this guy would say, go get some spit from my son Shikchas, because he's a Bechor. So that's good enough proof that the guy's a Bechor. So Gemara says, Dilma Brucher Dimahu. What? This should be similar to before. He doesn't say he's my Bechor. He's saying he's a
Right.
Bechor. Maybe he's a Bechor of his mother. So Gemara answers, Gemiri, the tradition is Bechor Daba Masiruke. No, it's only it's only it has to be the spit of a firstborn of the father that that works. And so if he's sending them to this guy Shikchas to get his spit, it must be that he's the firstborn of his father. It wouldn't work if it's a firstborn only to the mother. Amar Rami.
That's an interesting cure today. If we use that today, you send someone there's firstborn their spit to cure X, Y, and whatever.
Yeah, it sounds a little more like a witch's brew, right? Amar Rabbi Ami. Tumtum Shanikra V'Nimsa Zachar. What if you have a firstborn who is a tumtum? A tumtum is someone who's born without exposed genitals, so you can't tell if he's male, if the person is male or female. And then later the genitals become exposed, like maybe you do surgery or whatever, and you determine, oh, turns out he's a male. So does he get double? Doesn't work. Even though it's the same person he was when he was born, but when he was born, we didn't know if he was a Bechor. We didn't know if he was male. He's not a Bechor. And for terms of in terms of the property rights. The Amar Crow, why? Because the pasuk says, "V'haya haben habechor lasniya." This is talking about the rule of double portion for the Bechor. And it says it's the Torah sets up a situation where a guy has two wives and he likes one wife and doesn't like the other wife, and it turns out his Bechor is from the wife he does not like. Still, he has to give the Bechor a double portion. And the term it uses v'haya haben habechor. It turns out, or it shall be, that the older son, the Bechor son, is from the disliked wife. Ashihei bein mishas havaya. By for the word v'haya, it's interpreting as like from the beginning of his existence, he has to be a Bechor, right? So this person who, when he was born, when they were born, it was not clear if it was a Bechor, if it was a male. So that person does not get to be a Bechor. A little strange. Rav Nachman Yitzchak Amar. Rav Nachman says, "Af Eino Nidon Ben Sarumara." You know what else he can't? He doesn't. This tumtum who later is determined that he was actually male. He's also not subject to the laws of Ben Sarumara. Yamar Krok He Leish Ben Sarumara uses the same term Ki right? If it happens that a man has a son who is rebellious, Ashihei Bain Mishasavai, it has to be somebody who is known to be a son from the beginning of his existence. Okay, and we'll stop here and pick up tomorrow.
The Rashi there in the Chumash, that's in Kitei, right? The Rashi
Yeah.
says that this son who is hated, he will become a Ben Sora Morea. That's the
Yeah, yeah. If
progression
you get
in those
yourself into that
Pesukim.
situation, yeah,
And so this is the connection here. I mean, here the Gemara is following that logical progression. This would be the Ben Sor Umoreh. That
well, here the Gemara is pegging it on a linguistic
right.
thing that it says the haya or ki yeah, right, which is superfluous word. But perhaps there's something in that connection also. Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
It's not that. So this tu'um, but here the Gemara is saying that the tumtum would also not be considered a Ben Sorer Moreh because we don't know what he was
Right,
until later on.
right.
So I'm taking the next step. I'm thinking, and sort of the Gemara certainly doesn't discuss this, but if a person underwent transsexual operation from female to a male, which does happen today, that
Hmm.
that that child would not be a
That
bechor.
certainly, yes, that certainly would not be a Bachar or subject to Ben Sarah Ramara.
Yeah.
I suppose, yeah. Okay, have a good day.
Okay. Have a good day.